Hello. Today we are conducting an analysis of psychological suffering. Specifically, we are examining the prevailing modern model, which tends to treat distress as a malfunction and comparing it to a far older perspective. In that older view, what we call a disorder may actually be a form of communication from parts of the psyche we have repeatedly excluded. We will look at Carl Gustav Jung's framework, its surprising points of contact with contemporary neuropsychoanalysis, and what all of this implies for the idea of a cure. The objective is not to promote any particular treatment. It is to understand the function of symptoms. In our current paradigm, the psyche is often treated like software. If there is an error, we look for the bug. Depression becomes a maladaptive thought pattern or a chemical imbalance. Anxiety becomes a faulty alarm system. The goal of intervention, then, is to debug the program or rebalance the chemistry so the individual can return to baseline functioning and productivity. Jung's model was fundamentally different. He did not see the psyche as static software, but as a living ecological system. It has its own climate, its own seasons, and its own drive toward balance. He argued provocatively that forces once experienced as gods did not disappear. When ignored, denied, or repressed, they return as symptoms. In this view, the affliction is not the root problem. It is a signal, a symptom of a deeper systemic imbalance. How does this system attempt to restore balance? Jung proposed a principle of compensation. Consider a physiological analogy. If you bleed, your body clots. If your conscious attitude, what Jung called the ego, becomes too one-sided, too rigid, or too false, the unconscious compensates. It pushes back. It applies pressure to correct the course. For example, someone who prioritizes achievement and suppresses emotion for 2 decades may not simply be successful. Their psyche may compensate through sudden panic, compulsive behaviors, or depressive collapse. The interruption forces contact with neglected material. In Jung's terms, the psyche seeks equilibrium, even when the route is painful. But why do symptoms feel so autonomous? Why does a panic attack feel like an invasion? Jung's early research at the Burghölzli Hospital offers a mechanism, the feeling-toned complex. Through word association experiments, he showed that we are not a single unified personality. We contain semi-independent clusters of emotionally charged memories, images, and meanings. These clusters can split off from the main personality and operate like splinter psyches. When a complex is activated by a trigger word, a situation, a person, it can hijack the ego. Executive control collapses. You are suddenly living through the anger of a wounded child, the anxiety of a threatened self, or the inflated certainty of a power complex. Modern neuropsychoanalysis offers a striking parallel. Researchers such as Mark Solms, building on effective neuroscience associated with Jaak Panksepp, describe deep emotional systems that can override deliberative reasoning. In plain terms, intense affect can bypass the rational, planning mind. In Jungian language, the affliction is the moment the complex takes the wheel, because the ego's one-sided stance has created a vacuum of meaning and regulation. Jung did not develop these ideas from a safe clinical distance. He lived through something that looks from the outside like a psychological rupture. After his break with Freud, Jung entered a period of severe inner turmoil. He reported vivid visions and experiences that by contemporary diagnostic language could easily be read as psychotic features. A modern clinician might frame this as pathology and respond with suppression. Jung's response was unorthodox. He did not simply resist the material, he engaged it. He developed what he called active imagination, a method of entering into conscious dialogue with inner images rather than treating them as meaningless noise. He recorded and painted these encounters in what became the Red Book. He later understood this period not only as a breakdown, but as a creative illness, a necessary descent into the unconscious to retrieve essential, lost parts of his own psychic life. Jung is often paraphrased as warning that growth demands depth. No tree can reach the heights unless its roots reach down into the dark. The claim is simple and unsettling. Vertical development requires an equivalent descent. This brings us to the central question. What is the cure? Is it symptom suppression alone, or is it transformation? Research has suggested that Jungian analysis can be associated with sustained symptom reduction, with benefits that may endure over time. However, the primary goal of Jung's approach is not happiness, and not even wellness in the conventional sense. It is individuation. Individuation is the process of becoming an integrated person. It involves bringing disowned material into consciousness, the shadow, the complexes, the conflicted inner figures that Jung described through anima and animus dynamics. Jung also observed that many people enter the second half of life with a loss of meaning. From his lens, the resulting depression or anxiety is not necessarily a random malfunction. It can be a signal that the current ego structure has become too small, too rigid, too cramped. The psyche's larger organizing center, what Jung called the self, demands a reorientation. In that framing, the affliction is not a pointless error. It is a call to a transformation that is often inconvenient, disruptive, and deeply confronting. So, if we apply a Jungian lens to modern suffering, the clinical question shifts. We move from, how do we eliminate this symptom, to, what is the function of this symptom? What one-sidedness is it compensating for? What has been exiled from the personality and is now demanding attention? Jung would likely not begin by asking how to fix your depression. He might ask what your depression is trying to communicate. He would not only aim to silence anxiety, he might ask what your anxiety is protecting you from, or what it is pushing you to finally confront. The implication is not that biology does not matter. It is that symptoms can also be meaning-bearing signals, coded communications from the parts of the psyche that were never given a seat at the table. The path forward, then, may involve more than management. It may involve curiosity, careful reflection, and professional guidance. Because inside the wound, you may not only find relief, you may find a more complete version of yourself. What are your thoughts on viewing psychological symptoms as compensatory communications? Does this model have clinical utility, or does it risk romanticizing pathology? Let me know in the comments. If you found this analysis valuable, please like and subscribe. Thanks for listening.